Up here where I've got to put in a sump pump, and I got to put it in the basement. What happened was one of my sump pumps gave out, and so one of the reasons why it possibly gave out was that in the sump pump well, the area where the pump goes, as you can see from this small little picture here, you got to have some sort of a well, or here's another picture up here, but I'm not going to show that one. You got to have some sort of a well, and one of the problems that I found was, this is sort of a new problem, but I've got crawdads in that little well. The well is probably 2 inches in diameter, maybe, or 2 feet in diameter, I should say. And then, so I've got to replace this this pump. I don't know if a crawdad got in there. I don't know if there was a piece of wood or something, but I'm going to have to put screen around the bottom of this pump so that no debris of any kind gets in there. So I don't know if you'd call this an unboxing or what, but in any case, I've got to replace it. The one I had. You never know if you're going to find everything you need in here. Everything that the pump came with, supposed to come with, I should say. So I have to stop whatever I'm doing and do this, because we've had quite a bit of rain, and you never know if we're going to have more. This is a typical, it's a typical type of installation, because they just don't make things very solid anymore. This bottom here is plastic. You can find some that are cast iron once in a while. The ID of where this pipe goes in is 1 3/4 inches. So I've got a pipe already made up. This is the old one that was in it. And I'm going to have to measure it. Yeah, this should thread right in there. Yep, threads right in. Well, I want to show you something that you got to have. One thing you got to have is you got to have a check valve like this. This is 1.5 inches. 1.5 PVC, and I put a chuck valve on it on the old one, on the old pump, and this one should be about the same height. So I've got a rubber connection between this top and the pipe that goes above it, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pump the water out of the sump pump hole into an overhead pipe. When we get down in the basement, you'll see how it is. They usually package everything pretty good, and hopefully everything's included that I'm going to need. Once in a while they'll give you a fitting, but as time goes on, it seems like they make everything cheaper and cheaper, which is just the nature of things. I have put so many of these things in that it's really not necessary for me to have the instructions right now. So they have this rod, and it has 2 rubber washers on it. Take one of them off, and then they give you a clamp here and another one to clamp it to the clamp the rod to this pipe right here. This is a 1/3 horsepower. I suppose it's good enough. But like I say, I've done so many of these that I know what to do. Better to take both washers off right here. The way the principle of how these work is, I'll tilt my camera up so you can see it. The principle of how these work is, there is a switch right here on the top. Alright, and it's got a ring and a lever. You can hear it go off and on there, but when this float reaches a certain height, it turns the pump on. It reaches a certain height, something like this, and then when the water starts going out through your pipe, this rod goes down. Another one of those rubber washers turns the switch off and makes this switch go down. When the switch goes down, then the pump shuts off. And then they give you a nice 3-prong plug here. Typical. So you have to take this rod and put both of these clamps on it right here. I think I'll have them facing the same way. So now I got both of them on the rod. All right. And then clamp them on to your pipe, black pipe. You got to make sure that these rods, these clamps, does not interfere with your rod, because if it does, it'll never shut off or it'll never turn on. So you got to make sure that these clamps are on there right. They show you a little picture here of supposedly how it's supposed to be. This picture shows only one of those clamps. I think I'm going to put two of them on. And make sure that they're lined up pretty good. And you want them in the right spot. So they're going to have to be over here where the switch is. So kind of take your power cord, get it out of the way, and position these clamps where you want them. All right. They looked, and try to get, if you're going to use both these clamps, try to get them in alignment so that this rod is plumb, if you can get it plumb. And then they give you 3 of these washers. Okay. And if you can see this, one of them is thicker than the other 2. You want that one on the top. I noticed that one of the holes is smaller than the other one. I'm going to put the smallest one on top. Oh, wait a minute. Here, we're going to have to do this over again. I got to get one of these other washers on here first. But make sure that you have this top washer on there securely, and then try it. Right now, I've got it in the position where it's going to shut off. This float is clear at the bottom. You want the float to be, I would say, about 5 inches off the bottom surface, or in my case, it's around 3 inches. So I think I'll bring it down a little bit more. Right about there. And then when this float goes up, if you can see this rubber washer right here, you'll hear it click the switch off like that. And when the water goes down, it's going out. We can say that it's going out the tube, and so the float comes down again and switches off the switch. So they gave me an extra washer. If I drop it in the water or lose it down in the dark basement, well, then I got a spare one. I think I'll put that in my tool pouch, carry that with me, and then make sure that when you put this pipe in, that it is the same diameter as your old one, or make sure that it threads into the bottom of this base. And I did it. It's correct. And then I'll take wire ties and clamp this wire onto the pipe out of the way. Sometimes it helps to read the instructions, but this upper grommet here, this upper washer, whatever you want to call it, is supposed to be 2 inches from the top, and this one is. And this lower grommet can be between 5.5 to 9 inches below the top of the rod. This is the top of the rod right up here, clear at the top. And this one's about 9 inches. So just make sure that we'll shut the switch off, and then that will turn it on when you get everything together. It shows you a bunch of options here. According to this, the sump basin is supposed to be 24 inches. And I'm not going to measure mine because it says 24 inches maximum depth. Mine is about 24 inches. Place pump on a hard surface inside the sump basin. Make sure the surface is clear of debris. Never place the pump on clay, earth, or gravel. It is recommended the pump be placed on 2 bricks approximately 2 inches apart. So I think that would probably be a good idea. I don't know if I have mine like that or not. I don't think so. I don't think there is any bricks. But I'm going to modify this only a little bit. I'm going to put a screen around the bottom of the pump, because the bottom of the pump is where the water goes in. And I don't want any creatures, or I don't want any dirt or pieces of wood or screws or anything like that to get into the pump, because that will fix your pump in no time, and I don't mean in a good way. It'll ruin the pump. So we'll put a screen on the bottom, go from there. What I'm doing here is I'm making sure that I have at least 9 inches all the way around this, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this around this pump. And then I've got the bottom. This is where the water goes in, right here. So I'll get my marking pen, and then I'm going to cut this screen. I've got aluminum screen, so I'm going to cut it with these Weiss cutters, W-I-S-S. So just make sure you got 9 inches on each side. Mark it out. At least 9. Take your Sharpie and mark it out. Now I know I got 9 inches over here, so we'll leave that like it is. Then I need 9 inches on this side over here. And I know that it's going to be about 27 inches. So this way here in this axis is going to be 27 inches. So I'll mark this over here like this at 27. And then I'm going to mark it over here at 27. And then this way here is going to be 24. And I would, if I were you, I would wrap the bottom so that you don't get any debris into your pump, because that'll ruin it for sure. So just take your cutters and follow it approximately. I just use these wire ties to tie this aluminum screen around my pump, and now I'm going to trim some of it so that it doesn't interfere with the float. You don't want it to interfere with your float. There, that looks pretty good. I might put a few extra wire ties around it to make it a little bit tighter. But that's basically what you want to do, is what I'm going to do anyway, is to put these wire ties around there. So, okay, well, this is the sump pump installation, and I still have to hook up the electrical cord. You want to make sure that you have enough clearance for your float. The float is very important, and I do have enough clearance over here, maybe maybe about ½ inch. But and then I have a couple of brackets that I'm going to hook on there, and those are going to hold each pump. And then I've got this connection up here. This is my check valve here. And you want to make sure that you have the check valve pointing in the right direction. And then I have a rubber connection between these two. This rubber connection is very important because I have to take this loose. If I want to take this pump out, I have to take this loose and bring it up here to where this mark is right here. And then I have this hose for my other pump, and it's plugged in, ready to go. And then I've got these two pipes running together. They go exit the house.